All right, podheads. Today we're going to do a quick overview of how to install a big boy stereo in your car. Yes, we don't have a car here, but for the sake of just understanding the very basics, I think doing everything here on the table is going to make it easy to visualize and easy to understand. Okay, so what we have here is we have a battery. Doesn't matter what battery. This is a limitless lithium retro 56. This is a big boy battery, but your factory battery in your car will be just the same. A battery has both a positive and a negative, and that's all you need. Here we have an aftermarket head unit, okay, an aftermarket amplifier, as well as, for this example, a set of component speakers. These are some Sundown Audio E65 CSs, okay, 6.5 with tweeter and a crossover, right? So the plan is to kind of simulate a build in your car. We're going to do one door. We're going to assume a dual 6, dual 2 setup in each door. And fuck, let's get started. Easy. Okay. First thing we're going to do is understand that hooking up an amplifier to your battery isn't that hard to do. Okay. Right now, I have in my hand a Sky High Car Audio 4-gauge amplifier installation kit. This includes components that are very similar and you'll find in just about any amplifier installation kit you buy, be it a Stinger, Scosche, something from Best Buy, Walmart, something from Sky High Car Audio, or anywhere else, right? It's going to come with some big boy power wire. It's going to come hopefully with a fuse holder. If not, you need a fuse holder. It's going to come with some speaker wire, a blue remote wire. We'll get into that. And probably a single RCA cable because these kits are really designed for subwoofer amplifier installations. Okay. So first thing you will need to do is find out where you want to put your fuse holder. Your fuse holder is for the positive wire on your battery, and it needs to be as close to the battery as possible because what this is doing is protecting your car from fire if the wire underneath your car or inside your car gets scuffed, scraped, goes to ground, shorts out. The fuse is going to blow before the wire catches on fire. Okay, so this needs to be as close to the battery as possible. Then what we will do, after we have determined where the fuse holder goes, we will understand now that this needs to go from your positive terminal of your battery. Now, another thing, hooking up a big wire to the positive terminal of your battery can be done in multiple different ways. Okay, there's multiple pieces and components and accoutrements you can buy from various companies that will help you achieve the goal of hooking up a big boy power wire to your battery. I'm not going to go over any of that because there's just too many things to do, right? So let's just assume that I have a great connection place for this positive wire to my battery. I'm going to do a short length directly to the one side of the fuse holder, cut it, strip it, attach to the fuse holder. Then I'm going to put the rest of the wire out of the fuse holder. Okay, so now it's going to go from battery, fuse holder to the amplifier. Now getting the wire from your fuse holder to your amplifier is all very vehicle specific. We're not going to do that in this video. There's probably videos for your vehicle specifically, how to properly run the power wire, right? But for the sake of this video, we're going to assume that now we have run the power wire through the car to the amplifier. Okay. Get these out of the way. Now, to hook up the power wire to your amplifier is very simple. You have on your amplifier positive 12 volts and a ground. All we're going to do is the positive 12 volts red wire coming from your fuse holder, coming from the battery, is simply going to go in there. That's it. Crank it down, good to go. Loosen up the connection, right? Strip back your wire, twist it tight, get it in the hole, get as many of the strands in there as possible. Yes, you can put shrink tube and all that happy other stuff we want. You can put ferrules on there if you're so inclined. If you have a crimper and all that stuff, you can do it. But for the sake of this video, we are not going to do that. Put it in there and then crank this sucker down. Make sure that this connection is very tight as well as your ground, because this is where damage can occur, is if this connection is not tight enough. Right? Very good. Now, for the ground wire. The ground wire is going to go from the amplifier to some grounded point on the frame of your car, right? Again, there's probably tons of videos on the proper way to ground stuff, the proper grounding location for your specific vehicle. But for the sake of this video, we're just going to assume we found a really nice, happy spot on the car. We bolted this sucker up and it provides a good ground. Okay? Okay. So, same thing. Into our ground terminal. Put it in there. And just tighten her down. That's it. Some amplifiers will have screws like this. Some amplifiers will have Allen head screws. The Allen head screws are probably the better scenario because it's kind of hard to make sure that these connections are tight. But now we have the connections tight. We are good to go. Told you. So now that we have the connections tight, right? Make sure that sucker's in there. This is why it's very important. Don't hook the battery up until you are sure all your connections are good. Because this is where problems happen. All right. And put that in there. We're going to tighten it down. Get a little bit more ass on it. Holding it down like that. Right? Okay, now she ain't coming out. Still coming out. Fascinating. So, what we'll do, this is a good example of possibly not having enough wire stripped. So what we'll do, we'll take a little bit more off. Make sure we have enough wire going into that connection to get a good bite. All right? So it's not a mistake. I'm not embarrassed that the wire came out. It's good. It's good. It's good it did. Show everybody. You know, I'm semi-pro, but just not all the time. There. Now she's in there all deep like. It ain't coming out. There. Better. Now it's not coming out. Okay? Very good. Very good. Set that down there. So now we have our fused positive coming from our battery and our ground going to the ground in the car. Cool. So let's move this out of the way because now this is already done. Next thing we need to understand is our source unit, our signal. So what I have here is a typical aftermarket head unit. This is a Kenwood DMX 125 BT. On a head unit, typically on an aftermarket head unit, you will have your power connections as well as your remote turn-on wire. And you will also have speaker connections. Okay. One more thing is that this aftermarket head unit has RCA outputs. This is very important because RCA outputs are typically required for aftermarket amplifiers because aftermarket amplifiers require an RCA input. What is an RCA input? Great question. An RCA input is a low-level input, a low-level signal that comes from a source unit and can be used to give signal to an amplifier. What is a low-level source? Low-level source is typically low voltages, okay? It's still a musical signal, but it is at a much lower voltage, comes out as a much cleaner signal. You also have high-level outputs, which are typically amplified outputs that can go directly to a speaker, right? So if your head unit or signal source does not have an RCA output, you can then use a line output converter. What a line out converter is it actually takes high-level speaker outputs, inputs them into this device. it magically transforms that signal into a low level output, which you can then hook your RCA cables up to then go to your head unit or to your amplifier. Okay. So when would you use one of these? You would use one of these if your aftermarket head unit does not have RCA outputs, or if you want to integrate into your factory stereo, you can find the speaker outputs close to your source unit and then hook these up, and then you have a place to hook your RCAs up. Very cool. So inside your amplifier installation kit, typically it comes with RCA cables, but it's only going to come with one because, again, it's to hook up a subwoofer amplifier, you don't need 4 channels. But since we're hooking up a 4-channel amplifier and we want to get front left, front right, rear left, rear right, we need 4 channels coming out of our head unit. So we have 2 channels and 2 channels. We will say this is going to be the front, blue for left, black for right. On the head unit, we have left and right. So blue for left, yeah, whatever, doesn't matter. Blue for left, black for right. On our front channel, and then blue for left, blue for right on our rear channel. So now we have 4 RCAs coming out of our source unit that are going to then go into our amplifier. On our amplifier, we now have 4 channels. We have channel 1 and 2, which if you look here, channels 1 and 2 are combined, so we will use that as the front. And channels 3 and 4 on this amplifier are combined, we will use that for the rear. So front, left, and right. Front left being blue, we will use channel 1. Front right being black, we will use channel 2. Rear front or rear right, rear left blue, channel 3, and rear right black, channel 4. There. So now on the amplifier, we have 4 inputs coming in for all 4 channels coming out of the head unit. You will also notice on the other side of this amplifier, we have 4 outputs. Okay, we have an output for channel 1, output for channel 2, 3, and 4. That's going to be our front left, front right, rear left, rear right. Just that easy. So now that we have our head unit source hooked up, the other thing we have to do is ensure that the amplifier turns on. The way that happens is that the aftermarket head unit has a remote turn on line. What that is when the head unit turns on, this goes has a voltage now applied to it, and then that voltage can then go to the amplifier saying, "Hey amp, I'm ready to play music. Turn on." Cool? Right. So inside the amplifier installation kit, it's always going to come with this blue wire. That blue wire will then go to your remote turn on your amplifier. Yes, this is ugly, but for the sake of this video, we're just going to let it roll. Right? So now we will hook that one into the remote turn on. Okay. So power, signal telling the amplifier to turn on, and musical source telling the amplifier what to play. Very good. Now we need to hook up speakers. So what we will do, for the sake of keeping this video short and sweet, we're going to focus on one channel only. We're going to pretend that this is the front left channel going to our front left door in our car. So going from our amplifier, channel 1, which is we have designated our front left, we will take speaker wire and we will go from the amplifier all the way up to the front left door. Now, every vehicle is different. Every vehicle has different ways to run wire. For the sake of this video, we're going to assume that we've gone from our amplifier all the way to our door. Okay? So to hook this one up, all we got to do, positive and negative. Red is positive, black is negative. Just put the wires in there. Tighten them down. Positive, negative, positive, negative. Okay, very good. So now we have this run all the way up. I've already installed this plug on this wire just for the sake of time, but basically this plug is included in our in the customspeakerpods.com door wiring kit. What this does is it makes it really easy to install your speaker pods in your doors. So what we'll do is install the wiring kit in the door, and then or in the door panel with the speaker pod, and then this plugs in. So when you're ready to install your door panel, you plug it in, slap your door panel on, hook your speakers up, and you're ready to go. So now we have this wire. We have this wire in our door. We have our speaker pod set up with a dual 6, dual 2 setup. What's cool is that this comes with a crossover, so there's very little to think about. So now we have our plug, our female plug. We have the mating father plug, male plug. And again, on the crossover, we have positive, negative input, positive, negative output going to the woofer, positive, negative output going to the tweeter. It's very simple. Positive, negative, positive to negative. So positive, negative input. Okay. Very good. And these Sundown Audio speakers come with wires with the spade terminals pre-installed. So on this speaker, we have positive, negative. On the wires, we have, again, positive, negative. So red positive, black negative. And since we will be doing a dual 6, dual 2, we're going to hook this guy up to positive, negative, positive, negative. Just like that. Now, into the crossover, we're going to run these in parallel. So what does that mean? We're going to hook both positives and both negatives of these speakers together. So both positives, twist them up, put them in the positive side of the woofer. And then both negatives, same thing. Twist them up. Negative terminal of the crossover. Now this setup comes with tweeters as well. What are we going to do with those? Same thing. Positive to positive, negative to negative. We're going to run these guys in parallel. Positive to positive. Okay. Into the positive output of the crossover. And what does the crossover do? The purpose of the crossover is to make sure that high signals don't go to the woofer and low signals don't go to the tweeter. It's very important for the tweeter, especially to keep the tweeter from going crazy and blowing up. The tweeters are not meant to play low notes. Okay, so positive to positive, negative to negative. So now we have our door panel set up with speaker pods with a dual 6, dual 2 wired into a passive crossover with a quick connect plug. So when we are ready to install the door panel into the door, plug that in, slap your door panel on, ready to go. That's it. You're done. Let's do the same thing here for the other 3 doors, and you're jamming. Cool? Hope that wasn't too quick. I hope you gained a little bit of something from it. If it's really basic, it is really basic. It's not that difficult. It's not that hard to do. The hardest part's running the wire through the car, but even that's not that hard. Just be careful. Don't cut the wire, and make sure you put the right plugs in the right holes. Positive to positive, negative to negative. That's it. Cool. Hope you enjoyed. Peace.